Imagine a young nation hungry for expansion, willing to push its borders at all costs. On the other side, a newly independent country already torn apart by revolution and political chaos. When their ambitions collided, it ignited a brutal war, one that reshaped the map, sowed seeds of bitterness, and laid the foundation for an even greater conflict yet to come. In this video on Historical Edge, we'll unravel the complex story of the Mexican-American War, exploring key battles, controversial decisions, hidden agendas, and why the echoes of this conflict still resonate today. In 1821, Mexico gained independence from Spain after over a decade of revolution and armed conflict. This newly independent nation was in chaos with internal strife and economic challenges. The country was larger than it is today, stretching over vast territories. However, the lack of governance, internal divisions, and the absence of clear national leadership led to instability. Over the next several years, Mexico's efforts to establish a functioning government were marred by regional uprisings, political instability, and financial struggles. After independence, Mexico had no cohesive framework to govern its vast territories. Revolutionary factions were not aligned on how the country should be governed, leading to political chaos. Power struggles between federalists and centralists dominated, with no clear national direction. By 1836, Mexico was still grappling with internal issues, while the country's infrastructure and economy were in ruins, preventing any real progress. During this time, Mexico's government lacked the resources to maintain order within its borders. Rebel groups in various states sought independence, and Mexico was ill-equipped to handle multiple internal threats. Moreover, the instability created an environment ripe for foreign threats, especially from Spain, which still had lingering desires to reclaim its former colonies. The country's instability and weak governance made it susceptible to future conflict with external powers. In the 1830s, one of the most significant challenges for Mexico was the issue of Texas. Texas, once part of Mexico, declared independence in 1836. However, Mexico still considered it to be part of its territory. As Mexico was preoccupied with internal issues, it couldn't focus on reclaiming Texas. In contrast, the United States was expanding rapidly, and the idea of Texas joining the Union became increasingly popular, leading to tension between Mexico and the U.S. Despite initial reluctance, the United States eventually moved toward the annexation of Texas. In 1844, the U.S. was expanding rapidly, and Texas, with its fertile land and potential for growth, seemed like a perfect addition. However, northern states were against Texas joining the Union because they feared it would add another slave state to the Union. This division prevented quick action on Texas's annexation. James K. Polk was elected president in 1844, and he was a staunch advocate of expansion. He campaigned on the promise to annex Texas and secure the Oregon Territory. Polk's aggressive stance on territorial expansion was a pivotal moment, as he believed in manifest destiny, the idea that the U.S. was destined to expand across the continent. On December 29, 1845, Texas was admitted as the 28th state of the United States, despite strong opposition from Mexico. The annexation reignited tensions between the two countries, as Mexico never recognized Texas's independence and considered the annexation an act of aggression. The border dispute between the U.S. and Mexico became the central issue following the annexation of Texas. The U.S. claimed that the Rio Grande River marked the southern boundary of Texas, while Mexico argued that the Nueces River was the correct boundary. This disagreement would become a flashpoint, leading to the outbreak of war. Polk's administration had its eyes set on more than just Texas. The president was also interested in California, New Mexico, and other territories in the American Southwest. He offered to purchase these areas from Mexico, but the offer was rejected. As the diplomatic route failed, the U.S. began to prepare for military conflict. In early 1846, Polk ordered U.S. troops under General Zachary Taylor to march into the disputed territory between the Rio Grande and the Nueces River. Mexican forces attacked the U.S. troops on April 25, 1846, killing several soldiers. This act of aggression led to the U.S. officially declaring war on Mexico. The U.S. Congress declared war on Mexico on May 13, 1846, citing Mexico's aggression. While Mexico did not officially declare war, it was clear that tensions had escalated. Ulysses S. Grant, who served as a lieutenant in Taylor's army, later claimed in his memoirs that the U.S. Army's movements were intended to provoke Mexico into attacking first, a strategy designed to give the U.S. the moral high ground. During this time, Antonio López de Santa Anna, a controversial figure in Mexican politics, was brought out of exile to defend Mexico against the U.S. Santa Anna had been exiled after a failed coup, but was allowed back in Mexico with the understanding that he would help reclaim Texas. However, Santa Anna secretly negotiated with the U.S. for the sale of Mexican territory, setting the stage for further conflict. The first major clashes of the war occurred in the disputed region near the Rio Grande. General Zachary Taylor's forces won crucial victories at the battles of Palo Alto and Resaca de la Palma, despite being outnumbered. These victories helped solidify U.S. control over the region and sparked further military action. While fighting was taking place in Texas, U.S. troops under General Stephen Watts Kearny moved into New Mexico and claimed it for the U.S. without much resistance. Kearny's forces then set their sights on California, where U.S. forces worked to secure the region, encountering only light resistance. California was critical to U.S. expansion plans, and by mid-1846, U.S. forces had secured control of California's key ports and cities. The conflict in California saw battles like the Battle of San Pascual, where Mexican forces made a strong stand but were eventually defeated. The U.S. Navy had a significant role in the war, and their blockade of Mexican ports helped supply U.S. forces. In 1847, General Winfield Scott led a successful amphibious assault on the port city of Veracruz, which paved the way for a campaign into central Mexico. Scott's army defeated Mexican forces at the Battle of Cerro Gordo and advanced toward Mexico City. After defeating Santa Anna's forces, U.S. troops marched on Mexico City. The capital was captured after a series of intense battles, including the storming of Chapultepec Castle. The capture of Mexico City marked the end of the major military campaign in Mexico. In 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, officially ending the war. Mexico ceded a large portion of its northern territories, including Texas, California, and New Mexico, to the United States. In return, the U.S. paid Mexico $15 million and assumed $3.25 million in debt owed by Mexico to American citizens. The war had profound effects on both countries. For the U.S., the acquisition of new territories fulfilled its manifest destiny ambitions and reshaped the nation's geography. For Mexico, the loss of nearly half of its territory was a humiliating blow that would affect its political and social landscape for decades to come. A few years after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the Gadsden Purchase further solidified the U.S.-Mexico border, with the U.S. purchasing land in southern Arizona and New Mexico. This deal helped settle border disputes that had lingered since the war. The Mexican-American War set the stage for the Civil War in the United States, as the newly acquired territories sparked debates over the expansion of slavery. The war also highlighted the weaknesses of Mexico's political system, which would continue to face challenges in the years following the conflict. Was the Mexican-American War justified, or an act of ruthless expansionism? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if you found this video valuable, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next chapter of history.